Hi, it's Pete the Bundling Modeler. This will be the next build I'm doing for the channel. Obviously it's a Type 42 destroyer, HMS Coventry. No reason for it other than I like the look of the boat and I needed to build something on a theme for a group build in a forum I'm on, so this sort of fitted the bill, and I always fancied having a go at something like this. So as I've just said, this will be part of a group build for a forum I'm on, so I'll document it as I go, but I've got till I think it's December this year, so 6 months to build this. So it won't be a quick build for the channel. It'll be doing bits and pieces to fit in with the pace of the group build, so there'll be little and often, but on the plus side the videos will be a bit shorter. So I won't go through the whole kit now. You'll see things as they're being built, but I'll explain what I'm going to do first. So first of all, I'm going to take this lid off. Then I'm going to alter the brightness of the camera because it's getting so much glare off this. Then we can talk about the kit. So I'll be back in a second. Still quite glary, but we'll have to live with that. It's a cellophane, I think. So the hull is a multi-part thing. You can either build it as a waterline model or the full hull. I'll be building the full hull, so that's the lower part of the hull, and that's the bit where it goes on to the waterline, and that'll be one of the first jobs we have to tackle. I'll try and get the box out of the way so we can see what we're doing. But in reality, let's get some space. Oops, a daisy. It's been knocking stuff everywhere. The first thing I need to do is go through where you've got major components joining, like the two hull halves. I've just realised you can't see any of that because of the brightness. I don't know what's going on with my brightness at the moment. I was mucking about. Maybe I've... Let's bring that right down so you can see. Sorry, I've just adjusted the brightness there. So we've got the two hull halves here. As I say, it can be built as a waterline where that's sitting there, or the full hull. I'll be going with the full hull version, so those glue together. And the first job I'm going to have to do with this is go through the instructions. So obviously these two parts glue together. This I don't know, radar sort of room, whatever it is, something of that nature, is all glued out 3 or 4 parts. Funnel there, I'm not getting the light right on. The funnel here is out of 2 parts. Third part that drops on the top, but I think that's meant to have a natural line around it. So I'm just going to go through, find all the bits like that they've got split down the middle, which wouldn't normally there and can't be hidden with a panel line, and just glue all those together now. And then I'm going to walk away from it for a week or 2 to let all the glue settle down and shrink back, and then I'll see what I need to fill to get a seamless joint. If I glue it today and fill it tomorrow, the glue will shrink back and I'll get little seams appearing underneath the paint, which I don't want. I want to keep this model when it's finished. So that's the sort of cunning plan and why it's going to be slow and steady. I'll get this crack on with this, get this done, then you'll probably see it instantly. I'll probably do about 20 minutes this. I'll show you what it's like when it's glued together. Then we'll start to take the seams out and fill any gaps and put a coat of primer on the hull so we know that we've got a seamless finish, because obviously when you look at the hull there isn't an actual joint at the waterline where there will be on the model. So that's phase 1, and I'll come back to you as we get further along the line. Okay, so this is the bits I'm gradually working my way through to try and get a bit of a start on this kit. So let's undo that clamp. Should really clamp these up for a bit longer, but you can't see what's going on. There's a lot of hype about these F clamps, to be honest. They're a bit rubbish, but there you go. It's not something I'd recommend. That's together enough. But if you see there, we've got the join down there, and you can feel slice. That still looks a bit overexposed and bright, that doesn't it? Should we knock the brightness down a little bit? Where's me? It's very a bit nicer to look at. So there's a little bit of a mismatch there on the bow. There's a little step at the front and there's a little ridge there. I don't know if you can see it. But all in all, it is actually quite a good fit considering the complexity of it. We've got a step in the stern there, which, let's cut that bit off. That's only a bit of ejector guff, so that'll need tidying up. That one we'll have to be a bit careful because there's a couple of little, I think they're meant to be holes actually there, but maybe not. Little details there, so we'll put a bit of masking tape there. Oh, sorry, completely off screen. It's because this is quite big. So there's a couple of little, where are we? Let's change the screen angle for all this actually. Landing about. Can you see it there? Probably. I've got a couple of little details there I don't want to lose, and there's a step around the rear of this hole. So we'll put a bit of masking tape across that, and then we'll put in a slight bit of fill around there and just blend all that in. I don't want to take too much off that. I'd rather build up that bottom layer. And if you're looking, I don't know if you can see it, the way the light catches this, there's little mould seams here where the mould join to put these bilge keels in. So that'll need quite a bit of tidying up just to get it done. I wonder what fits in there. So look at that. That'll need a bit of tidying up to get rid of all the marks, but it's not a huge job. It will just be a case of gently going over the sanding stick and trying not to lose too much of the profile. So if any step more than about 1/4 millimetre will fill, anything less than it, it'll just be a case of getting a sanding stick and just gently taking back the excess. What I've got to be a bit wary of is I don't want to push too hard and split the hull open at any point, so I have to be quite careful. But just on this bit here, I don't want to do too much because it's going to shrink. Camera angles are all funny today, isn't it? You can see it's almost blended that already, then it'll be polished back. So I'll leave that, say, probably a week before I go near that, just to make sure it's all hardened up. It'll be tempting to touch it sooner, but I don't want to. I'm just wondering what those little holes in the bottom are for. So I didn't see anything that went on that on the book. Okay, yeah, there's 4 little stabilizers that go on that, so we'll glue them on once we've got the hull all profiled. So with the hull profiled, those stabilizers, the rudders and the propeller shafts, but not the propeller, and then paint it so we've got a good strong bond. But one thing I am going to do is at this point here, where it doesn't really matter, I'm going to drill a whacking great big hole. So I've drilled a hole there, and the reason being is this is a pretty good seal all around the bottom with the glue. That'll be a pretty good seal once you get the stabilizers in there. So my big worry is if this gets hot and cold, this hole's going to expand and contract because the air inside there will be expanding, contracting, and eventually it'll work this joint loose. So that's just giving it a bit of an expansion joint so you don't get any pressure building up in this lower part of the hull. So that's that done. Other little pieces, this is made out of 3 pieces, and you can see there's a slight I'm going to change this camera angle later on, I don't like it. See there's a slight gap there. Those ones I can just fill with super glue and talc and then file them back. But it looks like what you have to watch is everything seems to interconnect. So if I glue this in place first, I can't get this thing in easy. This little ridge there sits under there. under this bit, so that'll then clip down. And it's a really nice joint, there's no gaps, but you do have to put things together in the right order, so just watch the instructions if you're doing it. If you glue this part on first, you'll struggle to get this part in, and it doesn't make it 100% clear on the instructions, the sequence, but just be a bit mindful that you will have to make sure you're doing things the right way. So I'm going to put this deck on, I'll probably drill a hole corresponding which will be underneath this, so that again you've got room for air to circulate inside it. Right, I'm going to switch it off and carry on gluing things together. So the first sort of week or two of this will just be gluing sub-assemblies together, then it'll start to come together as a ship. Okay, it's back onto the destroyer again. So although this isn't the finished sand, I've got the hull together and given it a light sand, and the reason for that is, I don't know if you can pick it up there. Let's see if we can. You can see it down here where the, I wonder if we can in the light. That's it there. See that shiny line? That's where there's a step in the hull. If you put your fingernail down, you can feel it. Now down the sides, I'll be able to just sand that to conform. But on the front, I don't want to lose the shape of that bow. It's quite subtle, so we're going to put a bit of filler in there. And then on the rear of the hull, there's a step there. Again, I'm not sure if you can pick it up. You can see a sort of line, and that's a little step. So rather than sand that back and lose this shape, we'll put a bit of filler on this area here just to blend everything in, so we can smooth that round and keep everything as it is. Other little bits I've done is this little section here that drops into the back, and you'll never get to that again once the deck's on. It's all hidden in there, but it's quite a lot of detail in that. So I've got it roughly together. Then I'm going to have to paint this deck area deck grey. Then I've got some bollards and bits and pieces to fit on it, and a winch, which are the hull grey, and this back wall I'll be the hull grey with the doors. So I think overall, prime this in its entity, paint a hull grey colour there, mask off, paint this back wall grey, paint all this, then the hull grey and the underside of the roof there. Then we drop this in, glue it in place, and it's going to be tricky masking this because you've got little delicate handrails, so I might end up spraying the whole back of the hull grey and then just roughly masking it so it all blends in. I haven't decided quite what I'm going to do about that yet, but that's the sort of plan. So it's, at the moment, everything's going slowly. I'm just getting bits and pieces like the funnel together and just letting it settle down, so I can originally get rid of that seam line there and just gently smoothing. I've got a lot of bits and pieces to do, which I won't bore you with, but the main point is getting all this done now does give the glue a chance to settle down, so when it's all polished back, the seams don't reappear. So next thing is to fill the hull, and I'm going to use Mr. Putty White. It shrinks quite badly actually, not as bad as some, but it's not brilliant, but it goes on smoothly. So I want to put the bare minimum on, but it'll probably be 2 or 3 applications just to get rid of that. So we'll put it on, and it's softer than the plastic, so it's easier to sand back, and there's a little step just there on the front, but that's easy enough to deal with once everything's filled. So I'll only be filling to around here because that's quite an easy shape to keep. Then it's sort of kind of concave there, so that's the bit I want to get right. And again at the back, I'll put a bit of masking tape over those little ports there just in case of disaster, and we'll do it. So I'll just get myself set up for that, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I don't use this filler that often, so this could go horribly wrong. I'm just not practiced at it. But I've got a small bit of styrene strip about 1 millimetre thick. I've squeezed a bit of that out onto a palette, and I'm just going to push that in, and it does cling to it quite well. And I don't want to go wild. It could be a couple of passes to get this as we want it, but we don't want to put too much on, because the more we put on, the more likely to stuff up sanding it off by going too deep and altering the profile of the hull, which is what we're trying not to do. And it's also quite a hot day, so I suspect this is drying quicker than I would like. Am I off camera? Probably, sorry. So it's just, yeah, it's starting to dry already. Force it into the gap. So no more than that, and then we'll let that dry for a few days, sand it back, prime it, sand it back. It's got that long-winded process that's, I'll probably do one on camera and the rest off because it's so dull to watch. But again, we want to get some, sorry, I keep wandering off camera for some reason. When I say this needs filling, that's not, should really be up here. That's not reflection on the, I'm not getting the camera angles right with this boat where I'm with armour. I think it's because it's so much bigger. Sorry, it's not reflection of the kit being bad, this filling. It's more reflection of the complexities of the shape and the fact that Forearts have gone to get the shape right, and in doing so, they have to make compromises when you're doing the build. So I'm not being critical of it in any way, shape or form. Then I say it needs filling. Let's get some of that off and put a new clean blob on. But it does need filling, there's no doubt about it. You might get away with that one at the back. Some of these ones down the side, because you're going to paint a black boot cap on it, you might get away with it, but the bow you definitely wouldn't have got away with it. That stands out like a sore thumb. No more than that for now. Then we'll sand that back and see what it looks like, and I'll take that masking tape off and put another piece on. I keep wandering miles off camera, don't I? Put another piece on when I might alter that height of this whole setup so it's panning down more than it can zoom in. Yeah, put another piece of masking tape onto sand to protect these lips here, so no, I don't go too far. I'm very close on that one. Shouldn't need to be. But that's the whole, I mean, it's sort of touch dry now in this heat, but that's going to shrink back a lot, so don't go near that is the answer. Just let that fully harden up for a day or two. Don't need to do anything with that yet. And let's say that little, is it still in the back? Nice. This is the next sort of stumbling block, as it were. That deck grey, and it'll be the grey on all the decks. I don't really know what colour that should be. There's colour call outs, and you look at photos and they're all slightly different shades of grey, and I think it's the fade in the sun, sea salt sticks them because they're non-slip and that fades it. So I think anything, if you start off with a German grey and lighten it up, any colour will be all right depending on the day. I mean, if it rained on the decks, they look darker. If they've been in the middle of the tropics, they look lighter. There's just no, there is a set reference code for it, but that doesn't mean it'll look right if you use it. And even to the extent where if you look to the model they've got in Greenwich, the decks are green on this, and they shouldn't be at all. That's from a different era of Navy ships, so don't know. I'll muck about. I'll probably mix up a custom colour and keep it labelled up as deck grey, so I have to touch things up. I've got the colour in hand. And the other thing I've noticed last night, there's a little dent here. I'm hoping that gets covered by a feature on the deck, but we'll have to keep an eye on that and be prepared to fill it if it's not, but that's for another day. So that's where we are at the moment. I'll just carry on putting together all these assemblies that need joining up, so we give them plenty of time to settle down, like the funnels and the masts, and I'll be back when they're sanded and we've made a bit more progress on the inside of the ship. So that's it for now, and I'll be back soon. Okay, I've just been having a bit of a play about, and I've ended up with a mix for the deck. So I've used 2.5 mil in a pipette, of which they're dripping paint over here, one of these pipettes. So 2.5 mil of the light XF80 Royal Light Grey, 2 parts of XF63 German Grey, and 2 parts of RML Grey. Then I've mixed that up in an old jar I've had, so I've got plenty of spare. And if I get that and get something just to dab it on a bit of paper towel, I'm using paper towel because it dries instantly, so you don't have to wait. It will fade a bit when it dries. I'll have a hold that against the, I don't know if you can see that, but that's not the worst mix in the world. It's probably a little bit darker, but then it's going to be faded with light greys to represent sea salt, so that'll give me a good basis for my deck grey. So that's that sorted out. I've got to try and find a decent colour for, got to make sure that doesn't stick on as well. I've got to find a decent colour for the whole grey now. There's a suggested mix using black, white and blue, which I'll probably go with if I can get the paints. So I'll tidy up here, nip down to the paint shop and see what we can get. Okay, this is going to be the final part of part 1 of the Type 42. So whilst you've been gone, I've filled and blended all those seams in. It doesn't really show that well, this grey plastic on this light, but they're all sanded back. There will be more sanding. There's no way I will have got that complete in one go, so I'm fully prepared to see more of a mess when I put the filler on. These little ejector pin marks here and here, I've just double and triple checked. They're not used for anything. They are just ejector pin marks, and there's no way you'd see them when the boat is on a stand. So if you're looking side on, they're all hidden. But I fill them anyway. So all I've done was got a bit of black flexi super glue, which is a bit softer than normal super glue. I've blobbed that in there, and I'm holding the hole that way up so it sags down rather than into it. Then I'll sand that back when it's gone off. It'll take a little while, but I'm not going to rush it. There's no need. There's been a bit of disaster, as in I've dropped the hull and it cracked here and here. Now I've managed to glue it back together, and I think that's reasonable actually. I don't think you can see too much of a join. It's tricky because these little frames around here are quite prominent, so I can't afford to lose those. So it's gone back together all right, but when you put the deck on now, it's a little bit, if we line up the front, it's a little bit baggy around those corners where everything's stretched. A lot baggier. That's it, that's how it should be, particularly there. So when I glue this on, I'll probably squeeze that in so there's a gap around the back there rather than the side. There's not much you can do about that. I could cut that and rejoin it. I just don't think it's worth it. And for filler around that area, I'll be using this Vallejo water-based putty. Sorry, that's not going to show because of the whiteness, is it? It's the one with a little injector nozzle, so you can really squeeze your putty into place. It shrinks a lot, so it'll be 3 or 4 coats. Because it's water-based, it's easy to wipe off. I don't know if you can pick up on that. Try and get close to the camera so you can. There's a load of little dents in that deck for helicopter tie downs, and what I don't want to risk is getting any filler into those, so I want to do something that will wash off quite easily if it goes horribly wrong. That'll be in the next part. So moving forward, I'll be priming the inside of here, I'll probably prime the whole hull at the same time so we can look for any faults. Priming this little insert that sits in there, then I can paint this to deck colour and then mask that off and put the Royal Navy grey on the vertical surfaces. And there's little bollards and ladders and things in here that need to be that same grey as well, so I can paint those before I glue them on so you get a nice clean demarcation line. Once that's done, deck can be sealed on and we can race ahead with it. So that's where we are at the moment. I'm just waiting for that super glue to dry a little bit, then we can crack on. So I will see you in the next episode.